the goal of this lecture is to essentially set up rituals and routines to ultimately just minimize the amount of your limited willpower necessary to transition into a deep work state, ultimately making deep work easy, right? This is our goal. We want to make deep work easy. And in order to make deep work easy, in order to transition into deep work easier, we have to really minimize the amount of willpower you use. And this is the goal of this lecture. We just want you to get more shit done, TLDR. And that is it, kind of like our whole mission here at Intellectualism is to honestly help entrepreneurs who are making more than $3,000 a month get more shit done. And this is like the stepping stone. This is like the absolute basics when it comes to getting more shit done. Like, forget about all the other stuff we're about to mention, like biohacking, fucking, I don't even know, like afternoon slum destruction. Like, if you can't even sit down and get shit done, forget about all of it, right? It's like you want to run before you know how to walk. This is the lecture to teach you how to walk in the first place, right? As routines are basically habits, right? And for a long time, I honestly was a huge believer of routines. I never really gave a fuck about habits. Everyone would have habit trackers and stuff while I was over there just fucking doing my own things. Like, okay, 7 a.m. military style routines, because I've just believed that routines are basically habits, right? And honestly, when you transition from task to task, they really, really do eat up a shit ton of your willpower. And let me give you an example. So let's say it's like a Sunday afternoon. You just grinded a 16-hour work week and you're just sitting, I don't even know where the fuck you'll be. You'll probably be in your house, probably scrolling through the news, or you're going through some entrepreneur news, probably watching some Alex Mosey, whatever the fuck you're doing. And I just tell you, like, look, I just imagine me just walking into your room, fucking throwing your phone out of your hand or some shit. I told you, like, okay, it's time to get shit done. Let's go. Imagine how difficult it will be for you to get from that relaxation state into like that focused concentration state. That's fucking difficult, bro. And that's trying to prove my point, right? However, routines, aka habit, that's what I believe they are, do not, right? If you wake up every single morning to brush your teeth, does that take any willpower at all? No, right? You would do it automatically. And the keyword here is to do it automatically. And that's our goal this lecture, is to make getting shit done, is to make getting shit done, like getting a month's worth of work done every single day done easily, making it a habit. That is the goal of this lecture. So let me just run you guys through the lecture overview. You can pause, read this if you want, but let me just explain, right? So the first stage we're going to do is to decide on your dev philosophy. And if you're thinking right now, like, what the hell is this dev philosophy thing? Don't worry, I'll explain it in the next stage. After that, we're going to be creating routines and rituals based on your dev philosophy. So what you've chosen in stage one, we're going to be, forming it in stage two. And stage number three is the tips and tricks, basically, to avoid burnout and ultimately just deep work more. Because, hey, I'm going to be honest, everyone, anyone in this world can fucking go to, sit down in a room and deep work for 24 hours in a day. Anyone can do that. Like that. Even a baby can fucking do it, to be honest. Kindergartner, it just takes a lot of willpower, sure. But the real challenge here is to be able to do that for days, months, decades. This is what we'll be solving in stage number three, is to basically help you get to that stage where you're able to do this kind of work every single fucking day and not burn out, because many entrepreneurs are pretty much chronically burnt out, right? So stage number one, the dev philosophy. You're probably thinking, what the fuck even is a dev philosophy? Your average self-improvement, your average Joe YouTuber probably told you that, deep working is as easy as setting a 90-minute timer on Brain FM or some bullshit like that, but it goes into much deeper. So let me explain what the dev philosophy really means. So a dev philosophy is basically how, let me just write down how, actually, let me just put it this way. It's basically different ways to integrate deep work into your life. That's it, right? It's basically different philosophies for you to choose and integrate deep work into your life. It's that simple, there's no fucking bullshit ass fucking Zettelkasten garbage. Simple, right? And there are 4 types of that philosophy. And let me give you all of them in a shallow to deep scales. Deep meaning the deepest, the most flow you can be in, and shallow being like just shallow, your brain frying and all this garbage. So this is a shallow to deep skill. This is the most deepest philosophy you can go. This is the most shallow philosophy you can go. So the most deepest philosophy you can go is actually the monastic philosophy. That is extremely difficult. And that's the first thing I'll be explaining later on. So you have the monastic philosophy, you have the bimodal philosophy, you have the rhythmic philosophy, and you have the journalist philosophy. And all these have their pros and cons, but as you can see, it's all depending on what you want to do, right? If you're someone that wants to go in deep, right? Your life literally revolves around deepness. Okay, go monastic. If you don't even give a fuck about deep work, you have a lot of shallow stuff. For example, you need to fucking check emails for whatever reason. You need to be going all over the places, commuting like Junta every single day. Then maybe you can go towards the more journalist side. Junta, you mind telling the audience what happened just now?
What happened just now? Oh, just traveling for 2 hours and a half, and then hey, I had to come back because there was no reason for me to even go at all.
Hmm. If you're in that if you're in that shoes, you may want to go for journalist. But okay, jokes aside, no one wants to go for the journalist, and I explain why. So let's talk about the monastic approach, right? So basically, minimizing shallowness and maximizing depth is basically your professional career. And this is not many people, because what I mean by professional career, it could be, if you're an athlete, realistically, your professional career is like 30 years. But if you're like an entrepreneur like me, you're doing these kind of stuff, or you want to just keep doing this until the day you die, I will not stop coaching. I may be coaching in different areas in the future, but I will keep doing this until the day I die. And I cannot just fucking do the work every single day until I die. That's just not what I want. So that's why I say it's not many people, right? There are some people who prefer this. They don't give a fuck about traveling. They don't give a fuck about having fun. All they want to do is just work. Cool. There are some entrepreneurs I know, they are just obsessed with work. Work is literally their life. They don't give a fuck about anything else. They don't care about vacations. They don't care about anything else. They only care about getting shit done. Okay, then this philosophy is for you. And I can't really find any entrepreneurs, because I don't really do any of the networking bullshit, because it's kind of waste of my time at the moment. Or do I really just go out of my way to find entrepreneurs? But an example of someone who really just practices this monastic philosophy, is not actually an entrepreneur, but it's an athlete, which you guys may already know, is Khabib Nurmagomedov. This is a UFC star that's already retired. And he had a clean 39-0, if I'm not wrong, record in the UFC, right? You see, he used the monastic philosophy until the end of his career. If you talk to the people that was close to him, his father, his teammates, they will be telling you that this fucker was in the gym 24/7. He lives in the fucking gym. Every time he wins a fight, there's no celebration. You can see on the right? On the left is Habib, by the way, if you guys are curious. On the right, you see all the fucking UFC stars, they win their championship, they defended their belt or whatever. Oh, let's fucking go party and stuff. But Habib, he went to the monastic route, right? He decided he wanted to go full monastic and just kept grinding and grinding. And the results speaks for themselves. I'm not trying to put down any of these champions. I really do love some people on the right, actually. Like, you have Israel over there, you have Alexander. I really look up to those guys. But, the results are different. The numbers don't lie. Those guys on my right, they've lost a couple times. Habib has never lost even one round or even bled in the octagon in his entire career. So, hey, numbers speak for themselves. So how does this work, right? You basically completely remove anything that's shallow, and you only do the bare minimum if you have to. So shallow in this terms is basically just anything that's not work related. So you just completely remove like social media, right? And it could be great things as well, like traveling. I don't even know. Let me just put a car over here. I wanted to draw a plane, but I forgotten how to draw a plane. So a car, traveling, even though good things like traveling or fucking eating good food or whatever, right? You completely remove all of it and you only do what you need to do, right? So in some cases, as an entrepreneur, you need to actually check your emails. People will be reaching out to you. Okay, do the bare minimum. That means that if you have to check your mail, batch it, outsource it, do everything you can to literally only do the bare minimum. So if I was an entrepreneur that was on this path, I will first of all outsource it to an assistant or something where she can go through all my mail or whatever. And if it's extremely important, I'll get her to send it to me. That's all. I will not check anything else but work, right? That's basically how this philosophy works. And it's a bit crazy, but some people, some entrepreneurs may want to go down this path because they're not here for the money. They're here for the legacy. They're here to do something great like Habib. He never gave a fuck about money. That guy never gave a fuck about money. He came from the mountains. Sure, you need money to live, but he never really gave a fuck about money. He had something in mind. That's actually the next point. Who is this for, right? It's for people who have well-defined and highly valued professional goal. He had in mind ever since the beginning that he wanted to be world champion. He wanted to be undefeated. He wanted to be the greatest of all time. He had that goal in mind that he was pursuing. And the bulk of their professional success comes from doing this one thing exceptionally well. So if that sounds like you, guys sitting behind the fucking screens right now, if that sounds like you and you're doing this, not many people actually, it takes a lot of I don't even know. It's kind of like your perspective, honestly, because for me personally, I will not lie. I want to leave my legacy here, but I do also want to travel the world. And this is kind of like why we do what we do, is because, we also want to enjoy ourselves, but at the same time, really feed ourselves, right, Junta? The whole mission of intellectualism. That's why the monastic philosophy, as much as it sounds cool and stuff, not really for me, bro, but it could be for you. So if this sounds like you may want to be taking a look at this philosophy, as it really could change the direction of your career. You could be a guy that's literally like, just a champion, maybe 29-1 compared to a guy that's 29-0. That's how much of a difference it could be, and a legacy where everyone would know your name for years to come. If that sounds like something that you want to do, you want to be like the greatest of all time type of stuff. Hey, there are some people in this world that are really just out destined for greatness. Go ahead, bro. But personally, I'm out for greatness, but I'm not going for that next level type of shit, So next philosophy is actually the bimodal philosophy. And this is something that I would honestly recommend to all entrepreneurs out there. Point blank period. If you're watching this right now, I'll really strongly recommend that you do this. And you basically divide your time, dividing some time to go deep and some time to go shallow. So what do I mean by this, right? So for example, in a week, you could be like 4 days deep and like 3 days shallow, I think. Okay, Junta is here to see my maths error or some bullshit, because I'm actually really bad at mental maths, honestly. Or you could go like in a season's view of 12 months, right? 6 months deep and 6 months shallow. There you go. I've actually known a lot of entrepreneurs that do this kind of style. They call it like seasons or whatever. And a guy that's actually very famous for doing this is actually Imam Gaji. He created the whole monk mode protocol. This is actually what monk mode is. It's the bimodal protocol, right? But it's at a much more larger scale, right? And let me explain what that means. Holy fuck. Okay. You notice how the minimum time frame given for all of these examples that are given is in days, is not in hours or minutes, right? It's because this philosophy is much deeper compared to the rhythmic philosophy. That's the one that you're looking for, in hours and stuff like, because it really takes time to transition from a state of shallowness to deepness. And Junta, actually, I want you to give the audience an example of how your life was compared to when you were a student and now, becoming an actual entrepreneur, a professional entrepreneur doing this for a living. Can you really describe to the viewers how much of a difference it is when you're just, doing a rhythmic approach and just doing like full bimodal, meaning like just going monastic for days? And yeah, just retell them how do you feel? Like, how is the flow?
It's basically just immersion, honestly. Nobody likes to work on something for a few hours, and after that, you gotta switch your attention to the teachers, to homework, to class. Instead, if you're able, or at least when I was able to switch, or at least when I dropped out of high school for a moment, I was going monastic, or at least bimodal in a way, and going 7 days, or at least 6 days monastic, 1 day shallow.
Mm.
And during that time, actually very good immersion.
Oh yeah, that's basically the difference, right? And that's why it's in days, not in hours or minutes. However, I do understand that there are some entrepreneurs out there that just can't disappear from their employees or their managers for like a couple, like just for a couple of days or even a day. They still need to keep in contact. That's fine. Don't have to worry about it. I'll talk about the next philosophy, which is actually for you in this case. But for most entrepreneurs, I would strongly recommend the bimodal approaches, because you just feel fucking different, bro. You're just in the fucking flow. So again, who is this for? It's for people who cannot succeed without non-deep pursuits. And in this case, I will count myself entered in because we have to do stuff like, I mean, not us, but entrepreneurs like you who may be going for this approach, could be doing stuff like networking. Going on like a vacation, it could also be a thing. I already did mention, right, it's for your professional career. So vacation for like maybe 6 months, you want to go for a vacation, and 6 months you want to grind hard. No worries, right? That's what I personally would like to do as well. Go for vacation, networking, talking, emailing employees and staff members, right? And customers, etc. Right? So this is for you, right? I really strongly recommend all entrepreneurs that are watching this right now to go for this approach, because this is honestly the best for entrepreneurs in my opinion. But I do understand that some people can't, and that's why let's talk about the rhythmic approach, right? And this basically asks you to treat deep work as like a habit, right? This fucking self-improvement bullshit. And this is actually the most common most pushed approach of deep work that's really just given out there. When you're getting started with deep work, or if you see some bullshit self-improvement YouTuber that's just making some animated thumbnail or some shit, they're usually telling you to deep work with like 90 minutes, Pomodoro style bullshit. And this is basically what it means. It's the rhythmic approach. You basically treat deep work as a habit, kind of like meditation, right? Holy crap. Okay, so let's say you're fucking meditating, right? You wouldn't be meditating for a whole day, would you? You wouldn't be fucking meditating for fucking 12 hours, right? You wouldn't be doing that. You'll probably be meditating for like 15 minutes every day, or maybe even 5 minutes, who knows, right? So this is basically the same when it comes to deep work, but of course at a much more larger time frame. For example, like 2 hours in the morning before you go to work, you maybe like 3 hours after work, all that stuff, right? And yeah, that's basically the rhythmic approach. And who is this for? This, usually I would say like, oh, for athletes and all stuff like that, right? But honestly, this is for people who can't do monastic or bimodal, right? If you can't do what I mentioned earlier, you want to be doing this. Point blank period. There's nothing else that you should be doing. Even in the next philosophy that I'm about to talk about, you shouldn't even be doing that. However, again, I'll make exceptions because I know that there are some entrepreneurs out there, and I want to give you guys the option to choose, right? So that's basically freedom model 101, the option to choose. I can't tell people what to do. I can only give them options, right? So yeah, if you are someone that just can't, let me just write it down here, just can't disappear for at least a day, what other things do you think, Judah?
Well, people that just have, I think that's pretty much it. Honestly. Can't disappear for at least a day.
Maybe like your day is really shallow, like you will have to go to meetings all the time and there's barely time for you to go deep, and you can't even sacrifice a day because you have to do meetings and networking for some reason every single day. Then yeah, this philosophy is honestly for you, right? However, I do believe that there are some entrepreneurs, there are many entrepreneurs, including maybe yourself, that can actually go days just being deep, right? It's just an excuse. You just have to find time, right? But if you really cannot, like literally fucking cannot, this philosophy is here for you. And let's just say, hypothetically, because most entrepreneurs can actually do what I've mentioned above. Let's say that you just can't do anything of the above, right? Then I guess you can go for the journalist approach, but I really just don't recommend this to anyone, honestly. Literally anyone. I don't care who the fuck you are. I don't recommend this to anyone, right? And this philosophy basically asks you to fit deep work in whenever you can. No schedules, no routines or anything. You just fit in whenever the fuck you can. So how this basically looks like is, you're fucking in the morning, you just woke up and you just check your Google Calendar and it's like, oh, I have no meetings for the next 2 hours. Okay, let's get some fucking grinding in. That's kind of how it's like basically. And then maybe after the meeting, you're like, oh, I have a nice 30-minute block there where I can get shit done because I got to go to the meeting after that. Okay, let me just squeeze in some work in and get even more shit done. This is basically for those people, right? For those people who just need to fucking live like that. But beware, I really do not recommend this to a beginner. Actually, I really do not recommend this to beginners because it can severely deplete your willpower reserves. Because remember what I said at the start of the lecture, I said that when you need to like transition from a task to another task, it takes a lot of willpower, doesn't it? So if you're not really trained in this field of deep working, if you're not used to it and you're just starting off right now, I would recommend starting with at least a rhythmic approach, right? Do not do this if you're a beginner because you will heavily take a lot of willpower from your willpower reserves. So you pretty much identified your
That philosophy.
that philosophy. I'm sorry, it's fucking raining out there right now. It's quite loud. Actually, you guys gotta give me one moment. You gotta close the windows. Sorry, guys, I'm back. Let's talk about stage 2, which is your ritual. So now that you've identified your basically how you want to integrate deep work into your life, I already gave you like 4 choices. Let me write it out again for you guys in case you guys fucking forget. You know, you got the deep and you got the shallow, and the deepest being monastic. Already talked about it. Bimodal, rhythmic. You got journalist. So choose one, and we can proceed into stage number 2, which is your ritual, right? And there are basically no correct or best deep work ritual, right? So someone who's working as an employee may be different from someone who's like a manager, right? That's basically what I'm trying to put here. There's no correct or best deep work. Anyone that tells you that there's the best bullshit out there, which is like many of these YouTubers out there, tell them to go fuck off because it doesn't fucking exist, and they're most likely just trying to sell you some fucking course or their bullshit private communities, right? However, there are some general guidelines slash starting points that you can take to really just craft your own rituals, right? And let me just tell you what. So where your work and how long, right? And this, the reason why we're doing where your work is because we want to create a habitualization. So whenever so for example, you choose to work in the office, right? I don't know what office you may be in, it could be a home office or an office in general. So what we want to be doing here is to basically create habitualization, right? So whenever you walk into the office, you know automatically that it's time to deep work. That's the reason why we have to decide on where you work. Because recently, I actually started changing my where you work into like my home office, and it's extremely hard for me to get into the flow. I used to work with Junta in the library, and it was really easy for us to get shit done. Junta can actually be a vouch on this. What do you think?
Yeah, same shit. Because we get more shit done when we are in an environment where everyone else is trying to get shit done.
Yeah. So you really need to start deciding where you work, because this, again, that I mentioned, habitualization and how long, right? So we basically want to keep this a discrete challenge. You want to be always telling yourself, how long will I be deep working for? Because if not, it'll just be an open-ended slog, right? You just tell yourself, like, yeah, I'm just going to get shit done. Maybe halfway through a deep work, you won't even know that it's deep work. You'll be going to get some chips, go fucking talk to your parents or whatever bullshit. That's not what we want. We want you to know that when it's time to deep work, 1 hour, that 1 hour is complete fucking focus. No bullshit, no fucking around. And that's why it's so essential. Okay. So how you work once you start the work, right? This is basically just rules, right? Basically, you will tell yourself what you can do and what you can't do during a deep work. Remember, this has to be systemized. It cannot be fucking like vague or whatever bullshit. Like, I don't know, what's something vague, Junta? What's something vague that you will usually hear when you're trying to fucking get shit done? Like a rule, for example.
No internet at all.
Yeah, no internet. Like, how is that fucking concrete? You need to
Yeah,
be
that's
clear,
vague.
like no using Reddit or some shit, no using YouTube. You want to be extremely clear, right? This basically helps you so that you don't have to fucking think, when you're deep working, like, oh, am I supposed to be going to the toilet? Am I supposed to be on Reddit or some bullshit like that? Really write them out. So whenever you have questions like that, you just check the paper, you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing this, I'm not supposed to be doing that. And remember, when you're making decisions like that, it really fucks up with your willpower reserve. So we don't want to fucking do that. How you support your work? This is basically asking yourself, what do I need to do in order to stay locked in, right? And a couple of examples of this is what Junta is a huge preacher about. It's actually a huge glass of water, right? This really helps you so that you don't fucking stay dehydrated. You don't have to go fucking refill your water every 30 seconds. Yeah, as you can see, I have a water right here. Not gonna show the brand on any bullshit. No free sponsorship. But yeah, how you support your work. And if you're going monastic like me, you want to be deciding on what you can be doing that entire deep work day. Because I remember I did mention, right, for monastic, you're deep working in like days. You're not deep working for like hours. So you need to specify what you can do during those days. So what I do usually the monastic days, I will usually tell myself that for lunch, I need to be eating a ketogenic diet. I cannot be fucking around eating some noodles, some bullshit. That's the new rule that I've been setting for myself. As long as like checking my the web or some bullshit. I only do that when I'm doing my shutdown rituals, which I will explain later on. So that's basically how you support your work. Basically, what you need in order to keep yourself locked in. I did mention at the start of this point as well that there is no best ritual, there's no best routine. It's highly subjective. Someone that's an employee, should be on their email, right? But a manager shouldn't, that kind of stuff. So really just ask yourself what you need to do in order to stay locked in. And remember, all of these has to be systemized. And what I mean by systemized, it has to be like step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do this. Because you don't want to be fucking, again, letting your brain think when you're supposed to be using all of that willpower or deep working. So that's what I mean by all of this has to be systemized. Remember, step 1, 2, and 3. That kind of order, kind of like, think of it like you're a fucking robot or whatever. You're a fucking robot that needs these kind of steps to complete. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it, right? Oh, there's actually something. Speaking of systemization, you actually want to be utilizing Google Calendar. As you can see, that's actually my schedule right down there. My entire workday. There's literally nothing that's blocked out except Friday, where I'm usually just chilling with Junta, just taking a day off to really just get my mind off work and really just relax, right? So this is what I mean by systemization. It's really just step by step. Literally says that I'm supposed to be sleeping until 5 a.m. After that, I'm supposed to grind or work out. It's literally step by step, and there's nothing that's not specified, right? It's all there. So stage 3, tips and tricks, the shutdown ritual, what, why, and more. And actually, I want to let Junta to explain what a shutdown ritual is, because he is the guy that's a huge creature of what a shutdown ritual is. So Junta, can you actually tell the audience what exactly is the shutdown ritual?
Well, a shutdown ritual is basically something that you do every single day, right before you sleep, where you just shut down, because we are not a computer where you click the power off button and everything just shuts down. And plus, even a computer, when you click that thing inside the processors, they're doing some shit to shut it down. So it's same for us humans. We're trying to shut down when we have all this work thoughts like, oh shit, what about the package from this parcel? What about, oh shit, what about the person that I need to contact or whatever? You're having all these thoughts and then you're about to sleep and you're like, oh, it's time to sleep, like a robot. And you're like, oh, let's go to sleep. And then, you roll around your bed for like 4 hours and you're like, why am I rolling my bed for 4 hours every day and sleeping for only 4 hours? Well, because you have not shut down. You have not get all these thoughts, crazy thoughts, and list and write down the tasks you gotta do tomorrow and all that stuff, and just really allowing yourself to actually go to sleep and relax and not be stressed out and just worrying about the next day, because you don't want to be waking up tomorrow wide-eyed and be like, oh shit, what do I do now? And stuff like that. So it's extremely important.
Well, Junta basically explained it all. That's basically a shutdown rituals to ensure that your body really just shuts down. You basically a process where you log off work, right? Think of it that way. And note that sleep alone is not enough. You can't say, oh, I'll just fucking sleep. I don't need to shut down my body from anything. That's not true. You can see this from many entrepreneurs who just grind all day, no rest type of stuff. Where are they now? They're all chronically burnt out and they've fucking not been grinding for like a couple years now because they're suffering from burnout. You don't want that to be you, right? And yeah, and not only does it really just helps you log off work, it really helps replenish that willpower stores that I did mention in the start of the video, right? And by you not doing the shutdown ritual, you will notice in the morning, you just feel weird. You just feel kind of drained in a way. Junta can actually explain this again because he's someone that really, really is huge on shutdown rituals. And I took his advice and now I don't feel any of that anymore.
Well, if you wake up, I mean, I know this myself. I generally can't go to sleep if I don't shut down, because I will at least, bare minimum, I will at least emergency scan every task that I need to do. And I'll figure out, oh, okay, what's the emergency? What's the bombs that are going to explode if I don't, figure out? I'll take those off, because I know that if I wake up and I look at that bomb that I'm supposed to complete yesterday, I will go crazy and it will just fuck up the whole day. So it's very bad. At least do emergency scanning and then leave the like more lesser important stuff for later. And then you'll be fine. You wake up like, okay, at least I got the bombs out of the way. Now let's start with the smaller bombs, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty much the explanation of it, is to really just allow your body to rest, right? To really just prevent burnout, because you're not shallow working anymore. You're not in the office doing bullshit tasks. You're going to be doing extremely important stuff, right? You're going to be actually doing a month's work. Like, how do you do that every single day without resting, without shutting down properly? You can't do that. And that's why many people burn out, is because they don't shut down properly. They don't allow their body to fully wind down, right? So that's basically the shutdown ritual. So how do you perform a shutdown ritual? Well, Junna, you can explain again. How do you perform a shutdown ritual? But I'll just add in some points there. You basically perform a shutdown ritual by doing what you need to do to log off, right? And it's very subjective. For me, I personally need to, I don't even know, clear my inbox. That's a GTD lecture that Junna is actually working on. I need to go clear my inbox. I need to write my next actions, GTD again. I need to do all my to-do list, review all this stuff, but for you, you may be having a meeting with your employees and stuff like that. And honestly, it's subjective, depending on what or who you are, it's extremely different. But the principle here is to do what you need to do to log off work. As simple as that. But the most, I guess you can use this as a starting stone, is to at least write what you're going to do tomorrow. That's at least the bare minimum. Jonah, anything to add on?
I mean, the only other thing is just making sure that you finish up any leftover work that might have popped out, or maybe a little of stuff that you need to finish up that you didn't finish, that you have to finish by today. You can just do that in the shutdown as well. Because sometimes there might be some little tasks that you might have forgotten. For example, like you need to pick up the parcel or something, and you're like, oh shit, I forgot because I was working too hard or some shit. So at that time, you're like, okay, let's go and get the parcel and do all this stuff. Yeah, it's like what Jamie just
No. Continue.
Now, like what Jamie just said, the whole basis, the whole principle here is like, because again, this is very personalized for yourself, like this, with the reason we tell all these principles and stuff is not because we're lazy, we don't want to tell you what to do, but it's just because, this is all personalized towards you, because it depends on what kind of entrepreneur you are. You could be in the tech side, you could be in the financial side, it's all different. So everyone's lifestyle is different. So for you, as like what Jamie said, the principle here is to just do everything you need to do in order to log off work. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less.
Speaking of the parcel, do you actually get the parcel?
Obviously.
Okay. Soon you guys will know what parcel is he talking about. But anyways, I think this is the C tier.
Click the first link in the description below right now to book a free coaching call with us so we can increase your performance so that you can make even more money. And note,
Yeah.
we're only doing 3 customers, or mainly 3 entrepreneurs who are making at least $3,000 a month. And we're going to be closing off after that because we want to give all our attention, all our focus, our fullest gifts to these 3 entrepreneurs who are feeding us, while we're going to increase your performance to the next level so you can make 10 times more bank that you're having right now.
Yeah, and if you're an entrepreneur that's not making $3,000 a month, don't worry. We are still going to be making contents like these to help you out, to help you get to that, basically to improve your performance so that you can get to that $3,000 mark. And once you're there, hey, you can enroll into our services. We're always happy to accept people, but not too many people, right? That's why we say that we're only going to be accepting like what, 3, 5, somewhere around there.
3.
That's it for today's lecture. I'm Jamie, co-founder of Intellectualism. There is Junta over there, co-founder of Intellectualism as well. And we'll see you soon.